evening and welcome to Rangers Radio. Join myself, Oxchair, on the show tonight as some of the panellists. Evening, Bridgeman.
Well, can I say a big good evening to you and the rest of the panellists? And can I just say to all the Rangers fans listening in all over the world, good evening. Welcome to Rangers Radio.
My big mucker, Southside.
Hi, good evening, Ox and Bridge and everyone listening in this evening.
The one and only Jaffa.
Evening, Ox, and evening to everyone listening in.
Hello, Billy.
Good evening, Ox. Evening, everybody.
And for the first time, we'll be joined by Juicy Bear. Evening, Juicy.
Good evening. What an absolute pleasure it is to be on the panel this evening. Good evening, everyone.
Well, obviously, it's been another tough week in the Rangers world. A tough few weeks, in fact. We've lost two top quality players of our club. The one and only Davy Wilson and the goalie, Andy Gorham. Really sad time for everybody involved. Obviously, Andy a lot younger than Davy. Tragic, 58 years of age, no age at all. Bridgeman, give us your thoughts, mate.
It's really, really sad. I mean, seriously sad. Davy Wilson follows on with a lot of the other greats, going way back to the great 60s side when your fantastic Scott McMillan, Miller, Brandon Wilson, overtaking get taken over by Henderson, McMillan, Miller, Brandon Wilson. They were a great forward line and did the business for Rangers many times. And wee Wilson was an integral part of it. Wonderful player for Rangers, great representative. And what can you say about Andy Gorham, the goalie? What can you say? We've all seen him bringing off absolutely outstanding saves and sometimes not getting the credit for it. But my goodness gracious, he's saved some penalties. He's kept Rangers in many games. Many games he kept them in it, and we eventually won them. Fabulous. Very, very sad. R.I.P. Andy. Really and truly. Very, very sad. And I'm sure most of the Rangers fans all feel the same.
Yes, we knew it was coming. But still a shock, a horrible illness. Very sad. Obviously, Southside, David Wilson before your time, but Andy Gorham, arguably, our greatest goalkeeper ever, mate.
Aye, David Wilson before my time. I've heard a lot about him, and obviously, but I just spoke about him on the show as well. Andy Gorham, I've said on here before many a time, and I said at the end of last season, the greatest goalkeeper I've ever seen in my lifetime at Rangers. And still, to this day, still keep that thought. Tragic news at the time. Obviously, the news was out that it was going to come at some point, and it was certainly quicker than everybody expected. But a tremendous servant for Glasgow Rangers, and he was a world-class goalkeeper, probably between 91 and 92, 93, he was probably up there. He was one of the best goalkeepers in the world at that time. But I sadly missed, and it was but a legendary goalkeeper for our club, Ox.
Between him and Schmeichel at that time, would that be fair?
Aye, probably Schmeichel. Aye, he was outstanding at that time as well. Mm-hmm. But for me, Gorham, he was amazing at his time at Glasgow Rangers.
Eddie's time, Jaffa, was the generation that he was in, Andy, he never played with the ball at his feet. It was new, it came into the game, and he found it quite natural. Obviously, a natural sportsman, obviously representing Scotland at cricket also, mate.
Oh, that's true, Ox. I mean, he didn't represent just at one sport in the national team. He represented the cricket team. I mean, Andy Gorham was an unbelievable goalkeeper. And I have to say my condolences to his family at this really, really sad time. And as you quite rightly say, Ox, at 58 years old is absolutely no age and taken from us too soon. But from a footballing perspective, I mean, the game that stands out, I guess, for a lot of us was the night against Leeds United down at Ellen Road, where he just made save after save after save. And I mean, he had numerous games like that, but absolutely ahead of his time. He was, as you quite rightly say, he was probably in the top two best goalkeepers in the world of that period and that era.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Billy, greatest goalie for you?
Definitely, mate. It's hard to split them, him and McGregor, but Andy Gorham shades it for me, mate. Absolutely unbelievable keeper. I mean, is it the one that sticks with me, mate, is the save Van Hooijdonk at Ibrox.
Each game at Ibrox, aye.
Oh, mate, I was right in line with that, and I just put my head down. I says that's in, and how he got to it, I do not know, mate. That is, see, that's Gordon Banks making that save, like they raved about it the save he made against, I think it was Pele against Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
That save for me is up there with that, if no better, because that was just different class. Fantastic goalkeeper. Some of the saves he made when players were clean through him, it was an absolute pleasure to see. And to witness it live, mate, was phenomenal. He's a top keeper. He's worth every accolade he got as a keeper. It was world class, mate. World class.
World class. Just before you go to Andy Gorham, Davy Wilson, longevity with the club, played with top players in the top sides, successful. Football was changing, the European age was coming in, and arguably Davy's most famous game was he played at Wembley when Eric Caldo broke his leg and he had to go back and play a different position, and Scotland won the game with 10 men because no substitutes then. So Davy Wilson, a true Rangers great also, Juicy.
I've heard about that match so many times from my dad when he had to famously play at left back for Scotland. What a career he had for the Rangers. 382 appearances, 159 goals. Just outstanding statistics. And you talk about a player like that, what he'd be worth now. I don't even really understand players' valuations anymore, but all I could say is it would be a lot. He's given 3 generations of my family, a lot of great memories.
And Andy Gorham, for you, mate, where do you see him? And we're goalkeepers. I know it's hard to maybe not get the longevity at the club that Alan McGregor's had, but at that period, I would struggle to argue with Southside. He was really up there with the top in the world for a couple of seasons, maybe 3 seasons, 4 maybe.
Absolutely. And particularly, guys, if you remember back to the famous 92-93 season when we won the domestic treble and were within a goal away of getting to the inaugural Champions League final. We played 10 matches in Europe that season and we only conceded the 7 goals. And you just alluded to earlier how wonderful he was at Ellen Road that night. But throughout the whole tournament, he was absolutely sensational. That's one of my earlier memories of him and Rangers in general, was sort of the early 90s. Obviously, that's when he came in. But we've been so blessed with so many good goalkeepers, haven't we, guys? But he is the man, and he is the goalie, and no one would really argue against that. I know some people like McGregor, some people like Kloss, some people like Chris Woods. All of them were fantastic, but this guy, he did it in the big games over and over again.
Yeah, we know that some people like Chris Wood's Southside, but Davy Wilson's scoring rate as good as Fox's.
Certainly up there, mate. Aye. Definitely. If we got a pair of braces, I'm sure I get you extra.
Davy Wilson is, as Juicy rightly says, 382 games, obviously 5 subs was in, I think it was just coming into the game, 159 goals, 3 penalties, made his debut at 17 years of age, about 10 years younger than Andy. When Andy made his game, Andy was a man, 27 when he started with Southside. He was a finished article.
Aye. He became, obviously, when he first came in, he had a few high-profile flops at the time. Obviously, the game at game at Tynecastle, I believe you were behind the goal, no far from where I was, when the Scott Crabshot went in, and obviously the one at Europe, he dropped the ball, I think, against Sparta Prague, under him, and obviously Hibs in the semi-final. But they 3 at the start would have probably put a lot of goalkeepers off, and obviously us as a support, we're looking thinking we've just paid £1 million for this guy. But he got himself together and he went on and proved that he was a big game player. and he proved it umpteen times. I think one of the games I remember fondly was against Aberdeen midweek. I think it was in about February or something. It was a Wednesday night at Aberdeen. I think they were getting the stand built behind the goal, and he was phenomenal that night. Scott Booth, Ian Jess, I think John Duncan Shearer got flung on that night, and I think there was a few, but they absolutely battered us. And he must have pulled off about 6 or 7 saves that night. It was unbelievable.
Did the goal that night, mate?
I swooped in just about 18-yard box and headed one right low into the corner. We won 1-0, but we won 1-0 because of Andy Gorham that night. He was just absolutely phenomenal, you know.
I'm just looking at the start of his career with us, mate. Billy, £1 million for Andy Gorham. David Wilson, how put that in context, mate.
It's frightening, isn't it, when you think about it, when you really think about it, when you see the money that's getting through around in the English Premier League and La Liga and the Bundesliga in Germany and all that, mate. The money, it's absolutely crazy, man. The money that Andy must have been worth now, if any big one of the top. And but believe you me, by the way, we all know he could have. Andy Gorham could have played with Real Madrid. The likes of the teams and the Milans and the Juventuses of this world, you know what I mean? No problem, but he was priceless, Hawks. That's the highest regard you can give him as a goalkeeper. He was priceless. That's what I could say about him as a goalkeeper, mate.
I was talking to somebody today that said he was my most expensive ever goalie, but he wasn't. Bonus point for anybody who gets it.
Stephen Kloss.
No. Saboni.
Oh, Southside.
Was it? Big Lionel?
I think so, mate. I think so. I think the Cross coming a Bosman. I'll check that out for you. See if we get appointed. But £1 million, Andy Gorham, peak his powers, great bit of business. Would we have signed him, Jaffa, if it wasn't for the three foreigners rule?
Probably not, Ox. Probably not, because obviously we had already got Woods up for England, and at that point with the 3-4 rule, it really put the clamps on that and what you could go for, and that was probably one of the reasons why Walter Smith went for him, was because he was Scottish and playing for Scotland. And also, I have to say, he was also shown himself up to be a brilliant goalie at Hibs. Pound for pound, Andy Gorham in today's market would be worth probably £20-25 million.
Aye, it's mental. When you look at it, we don't pay a lot of money for goalies. Juicy, does that surprise you? Juicy?
Well, it's difficult because, as I said earlier, football players' pricing has now gone to a level that I can no longer comprehend, really, in terms of being able to value a player. But goalkeepers, you don't see them move around too often, do you? They tend to go through the ranks of a club, and then they sort of stay there for quite a long time, and then you see the third choices move around, and that's about it. But 25 million, I think that would be at least what you'd want for him. If you were looking at him in that prime mid-90s, after the Champions League season. I don't know. We didn't have all the social media that we have now back then, but I can only imagine what the speculation would have been that summer about, is Andy Gorham available? Because you'd be surprised if there weren't people talking to the club about him back then. But the prices, it just blows my mind, guys, what players are going for now. Calvin Phillips has just gone from Leeds to Manchester City for 45 million.
Yeah,
I'm not saying the kid's not a good player, but that's a hell of a lot of dough. So let's just say a lot of money. Andy Gorham would have been, if we'd sold him now, we'd have been cashing in on a great player. It just shows that being shrewd in the market with the way we got him was, a fantastic piece of business for us.
Bridgeman, Andy Gorham, David Wilson wasn't the biggest guy in the world and scored goals with a head and was quick and brave. Played beyond his size, if you like. But if you were picking somebody going goals in the playground, you looked at Andy Gorham, you wouldn't be putting him in goals, would you?
You would think twice. In modern days, you would think twice. But lots of goalkeepers did very well, and I think Andy Gorham had a fabulous career with Hibs. He was absolutely brilliant for them, and of course Rangers stepped in, much like we did with Colin Steen, and we stole Colin Steen for $100,000 in Steen's day, and we got him for $1 million, and that was a steal. No doubt about it at that time, because he was worth a lot of money, and multi-sport as well. He liked his cricket, and really and truly, he was a great goalkeeper for us. Save after save, it's just incredible. It's just incredible. The amount of games that you went to see him, and you come back, you can walk to a range, you think, my God, we were lucky we never lost there. We wouldn't have been for Gorham, that kind of thing. Great goalkeeper. Knew his stuff, was a true blue. That's what it's about. A lot of the fans loved that about him. He was a true blue. Loved him.
Mm-hmm. Aye. Southside, I would take a lot of persuading to say that the game at Ellen Road wasn't his greatest game.
Aye, that'd probably be fair. Obviously, it's a high-profile game. It was the start of the new format, wasn't it, of the Champions League. It was a qualifier, or the second round or something, whatever it was. But it takes a lot of beating. I mean, don't get me wrong, Ox, he's had some tremendous games against them in games, and also, like we said, that night against Aberdeen, I mean, Pittodrie was unbelievable, but for the sheer size of the competition, the magnitude of that game, he was phenomenal that night, absolutely unbelievable. Also aided by Goff and John Brown, he always said that, he was always humble, he always gave them credit, the defence. He said, I can't do it without the boys in front of me, you always heard them say that. But definitely, mate, that night it was unbelievable. He was tremendous, absolutely tremendous, and I think hearing wee bits and bobs during the week, I think they were saying it was Howard Wilkinson who picked him for England under 21s, and then obviously later on he played for Scotland, and obviously Howard Wilkinson was the manager that night for Leeds United. So I take it he might have had a wee point to try and prove as well, Not that he had to, but tremendous that night, 100%.
Yeah, I heard something on Sky when he passed away, Billy, that Craig Brown was on, and things become true because they're in the media, and he said that Andy Gorham walked out in the Scotland camp. I don't know if you heard the story. Craig Brown said no, that wasn't the case. He came, he told them what was happening. He had to leave for personal reasons. He spoke to them, left a very, very a great note for all the staff and the players. Wished everybody the best, and he done things class. No, you never heard that in the media, did you?
No.
People are portrayed sometimes differently what they're like in real life. I'm not saying Andy didn't have these flaws, hasn't he? I certainly have. Well, I think so.
Aye, mate. That was just to mark him he was a proper professional. Box, you know what I mean? And he was. They broke him. They broke the goalkeeping mould when they made Andy Gorham. I mean, his concentration levels were different class, mate. And you got to remember, Rangers were keeping the ball for long periods in games and all that, so he had to be on his toes. A lot of keepers would have went to sleep on that type thing, but no him. And what I liked about him as well, Ox, he always stood on his feet, and he stood and he stood and he stood and he stood, and he made whoever was coming in on top of him, he made them make the first move. You know what I mean? He never gave it away. You know what I mean? And he never sold himself. And I mean, some of the saves with his wrist, man. How strong was he? He was just a brilliant all-round keeper. Eh? He had everything that needed to be a goalkeeper, mate. And as you said there, just touched on at the start of the show, he was good with the ball at his feet as well. He was really good with the ball at his feet. So he was.
A lot of the goalies in that era, Jaffa, struggled with that because it was new to them. They hadn't grown up with it.
That's true, and Gorham was probably one of the first ones that I saw at Ibrox being so comfortable with the ball at his feet and almost playing like it was effectively like a sweeper role. in a lot of the time, which allowed us to push forward. And I mean, when you think of having that in your armoury at that particular time, he was on. I mean, going back to that night, and I know we can all eulogise about the different games, but that night at Ellen Road, I mean, it was, bearing in mind it was Eric Cantona that was playing for Leeds that night. Probably one of the best strikers of that era. And he just kept looking at the heavens because he pulled off save after save and flicked him round the post. And as Billy was saying, his concentration levels and clearly his eye contact to ball was obviously very good. He was just a brilliant goalie. And you always felt as well the players, the surge of sort of almost like reassurance that gave to the back four before they even went out the tunnel. That if you had Gorham standing between the sticks, I mean, I often thought that games, because they saw Gorham, because he was just so difficult to score against. Stocks, great footballer, great goalkeeper, and he is a really, really big loss to our football club. There's no two ways about that.
See that goal before we open the phone line? See that goal he lost at Easter Road? Tynecastle, south side. Yeah.
Aye.
That you mentioned.
That
was the first goal he lost for Rangers. He lost one goal in 9 games, and everybody said he didn't make a good start.
I know, but you know what it's like when a goalkeeper loses that goal. And I mean, he basically thought it was going by the post. He admitted it later, didn't he? That he thought it was going by the post. But he gets criticised and he conceded one goal in his first 9 games. No bad at it.
Can I come in on that game?
Bridge, before we go any further, I mean, it was unusual for a centre half to be good with the bottom of his feet in that time. Carry on.
I'm just wondering what the guys think. I don't know if Gorham would have made it in today's game, because most of the goalkeepers you see today are a bit taller than Andy, and it's a different game. The ball moves a lot. The centre halves, I remember, they may be a lot tougher and rougher in the box, and the referee's letting them away with it. So I don't know whether they would have made it in today's game. I don't know. What do the guys think?
Can I say something?
Aye, go on, you go, mate, before we get
to me, Bridge, this is just my opinion, that to me sounds like I think along the lines of McCrory then, because McCrory's similar in stature to Andy Gorham. And he's possibly going to believe in the club. So, but I think in the day's terms, I think if Andy Gorham was available, and I think Andy Gorham would be a steal for anybody. I know what you're saying, modern football's moved on. We watched McLaughlin come out and get the ball and try and move it quicker, and that, as we see, he's better than McGregor at it. But I just think for class goalkeepers come to the fore, Bridge, and if they're not too good with their feet, you pay them to save shots and save goals. And that's always been my motto. I want my goalkeeper to save shots. I'm not too worried if he's good to be his feet. I just want to be able to save the ball.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
We've had a few of them that couldn't do that.
Aye.
Ox, just to touch on Bridges' wee question there as well, buddy. I think he would actually have made it in the day's game. Do you know why? See, when you look back, right, for talking to the games against Juventus in the Champions League, right, I mean, he was coming up. The players that were putting the ball in the back of the net, you're talking about Ravanelli, Del Piero, Antonio Conte. You know what I mean? They were some they were some players at that time, and to beat the goalie you had to be special. So I really think he would because he would adapt to the way the game is played today. I really think he would.
I understand his point, but listen, we'll put that out to the listeners, yeah? That's all right with you, Bridgeman.
Absolutely, pal.
Yeah, we'll get the Bridgeman. Listen, we're going to open the phone lines and get people's thoughts. Yeah. And Davy Wilson, what a career Davy had. And by the way, I only met Davy once, but people that know him really well, everybody says what a thorough gentleman, and obviously gives your thoughts on Andy Gorham. So let's hear from you.
Why don't you give us a call on 0141 356 1972. It's your show, it's your platform. Let's hear from you.
You back with us, Jaffa? You stop stealing the next door's Wi-Fi?
I'm back with you. Back with you, mate.
Mate, that's one way of getting your utility bills done, you know? You know? Could Andy Gorham played in modern day? I think he could have, mate. I think the boys weren't that different. I don't think you're talking about somebody going for the 50s to the 2000s, huh? Jaffa?
For me, Ox.
No,
I think he would. I think he would have been absolutely. He would have walked into the team. Even just his shot stop mobility alone, Ox. I think he would have walked into the Rangers team even today in the modern era. He was that good. I think his height would have overcome that with a shot stop.
Mm-hmm. I suppose with Bridges' theory, Baxter wouldn't get in the third time anymore south side, would he? Oh, I'm waiting.
What a shocker. What a shocker. Greatest ever.
Aye, I think he would have survived Juicy. I think he'd have been fine because he'd have made the saves. He'd have still made the saves.
Yes, and he might not have been the biggest goalkeeper, but as you guys said, with the shot stopping, he'd have still been there. The positioning and the mindset would have still been there. Doesn't matter what the error is.
Yeah. Thoughts, Billy?
Aye, mate. I was watching a wee podcast. It's actually this afternoon, mate. I think it was a James English on YouTube, and he was interviewing Andy Gorham, and Andy was telling the story about the Gaz's goal at Wembley. And the goalie's words was, he says that there was only one player in the world could do that. It was Paul Gascoigne.
Mm-hmm.
He says, and do you know what? He says, I was this was his words. He says, I was 6 inches out of position. He says, I actually got my fingertips to that. That just shows you how highly tuned he was and how switched on he was, Ox. And not just domestically, but in international football, mate. You know what I mean?
Good point you make, mate. You make the saves with your feet, because if you don't get your feet in position, you're never getting it with your hands. Anyway, We've been joined by Tommy. Evening, Tommy.
Hello, Ox. Hello, panel. How are we doing?
How are we doing, mate? How are you, mate?
I'm good. I was just going to say, Ox, it was great when the legends came to Bognor, mate. That guy went out of his way to get photographs with nearly every Wayne that was there, mate. What an absolute legend. He came off at half-time in the game to go for a beer. But Ox, he took his time to get photographs for the Waynes, signed jerseys for the Waynes, did whatever with the Waynes, and some of the fans at Bognor absolutely thought he was a good gentleman. And even at the night do, he went out of his way to sign folks' shirts and everything, and he was signing boys. What he did as an ambassador for the club was superb, Ox.
Mm-hmm. Southside.
Aye, Tommy, that doesn't surprise me, mate. I know he's done that up in Glasgow and everywhere he's went at auctions and that. He's always been approachable or anything like that. He's always managed to take photos or sign autographs for people, and that's just the type of person he was. It's probably a wee bit back in the day, Tommy, the players were a wee bit more approachable with people like us, than nowadays where you can't get near a player virtually, But aye, it was good to hear, Tommy, that he spent all that time down there and done what he done, mate. That was really good, Nothing you'd expect less for a Rangers player, mate, back in the day.
I was listening to what you were saying there, Ox. That game against. I like. If you watched, you were saying about the highlights on the Sky thing there, about how he all the games against Celtic. Was it only lost against Celtic 5 times or something, Ox? Wasn't it? I still said 5 times.
He did a great record. Against them, man.
And about Tommy Burns, the year that Tommy Burns, I think the only team that beat them was Rangers. And he said we could have had 1,000 shots one night and we wouldn't have still won the game with him and goal.
Would it be fair to say, Juicy, he was a big game player?
He wasn't just a big game player. For me, he was there for all occasions. But as you guys said earlier, those standout matches against Celtic and against Leeds, they're the ones that everyone remembers, aren't they? Because the save against Van Hooijdonk, we've seen it so many times, and you still can't believe that he saves it. And those big game moments are what you remember. But away from home against the smaller teams in the league, he'd do the business as well. If the team weren't having a great day, he's still got to be on the ball, even if we're dominating the play. For the years that he was with us, you could hardly ever fault the guy.
Was his greatest game on you go, Tommy?
I was just going to say, didn't Pierre Van Hooijdonk said he was his worst nightmare because Pierre Van Hooijdonk missed a penalty against him as well at Parkhead, and he also made that save no long after, and then the other saves he made against him, didn't Pierre Van Hooijdonk said the man was an absolute jinx. Couldn't get past him.
Good games against them. The penalty, I think that was the night that Van Vossen had that miss. I might be wrong, I've not checked it out. I'm saying that from memory, Southside.
I thought we missed something. I thought we missed a penalty in that game and all. Or maybe it was a Van Vossen miss. It was that long ago. But he was just a big game player, Tommy. No, he produced for us early seasons. And you can probably count in one hand how many times, like you said, we spoke earlier of the three sort of mistakes that we all remembered that were high profile at the time when he first arrived. But after that, you could probably count in one hand the amount of times he cost you points in a game. Over the seasons he was with us, he was that good.
Yep. And I was just going to say, Yorks, I remember Davy Wilson when my brother took me to a game in 1965 at Ibrox on a really cold, wet December night. And Rangers were playing in white. And I said to my brother, who's this team then? I said, I thought Rangers played in blue. Of course, that night Dundee played in blue, Rangers played in white. And I couldn't understand why people were cheering when this team in white scored. I was only 7 at the time, Ox.
I blame the schools.
Yeah, all right, okay. That was my seventh stop to that night, Ox, when they played Dundee at Ibrox. So I couldn't.
You're only learning. Jaffer, come to you, mate. Talking about games against them, arguably one of his greatest one was a 10-man performance in a semi-final at Hampden. The night McCoy scored in a wet Thursday night, and we won 1-0 when Robertson got sent off.
That's right. He was brilliant that night, Ox, wasn't he? He pulled off some fantastic saves. I can't quite just remember some of, if you could jog my memory, but I know that he was outstanding that night, and obviously because we were down to 10 men. I remember McCoy's goal.
McCoy's goal was that's the bit you see for the game, but Gorham and the conditions were just they weren't for goalkeepers, and he joggy bottoms on, mate, and he just stood there. Didn't he look like a mainstream athlete, and he just kept about that goal at all costs. Southside.
Looked as though he just got him up the park.
Aye, exactly. All he needed was a pair of braces to hold them up.
Aye, definitely. That was some night. That one, that rain was crashing down that night, man. It was unbelievable. But he broke their hearts as it was reported and as it had been said by one of their former managers. And he was certainly a big time player for us in the games against them, you know. But even I think with Ox, I can't remember the year. It must have been probably 91, 92 or 92, 93. Did he not win a couple of awards as well in Scotland? I don't know if he got Player of the Year or he got Writers.
92, 93, the year we were robbed with Marseille and won the treble, mate.
Aye, so there's no many goalkeepers that win the awards for Player of the Years early years, you know. I think probably one that comes off the top of my head. I know they gave one out there at the start of this season, but I think Hamish McAlpine won one year. I think he won a goalkeeper award, you know. So
he scored a dozen goals.
Andy Gorham scored one for Hibs, believe it or not.
Aye, I think I read that. Southside I did.
Aye.
I read that.
And what? Just sorry, Ox, to interject. Sorry, mate. I was just going to say the other night. The other one I remember was the game against Marseille. That same night, it was soaking wet. Stephen Presley had knocked a ball beyond him, and they went 2-0 up. And the saves that he pulled off with Rudy Voller and Alan Boxic that night was unbelievable. He was brilliant in the second half, and that was before we went up the park and scored the 2 goals to equalise, to bring it back to 2 each.
Do you know that you mentioned that, mate? No, one of the things that rankles me about that whole thing, that obviously what they done, their club done, they didn't have to do that. They were a top side, weren't they?
I mean, Bolly was playing for them that night. I mean, the players, I mean, as I said, Rudy Voller was playing for them. Alan Boxic was only 19. He was an outstanding footballer. I mean, they had, was it Demeco, the boy with the long hair on the right-hand side, playing for them? They had a great team, an unbelievable team.
Aye, didn't have to do it. Right, last word for your good self, Tommy. David Wilson, Andy Gorham. Sad loss for the club. Sad loss.
I was just going to say, Oxford, thanks for having me on your show, Ox. Yes, it's a very, very, very sad loss for all the Rangers supporters and for the club. Yeah, true legend, mate, but thanks for having us on, and I'll keep listening to your show, Ox.
Speak to you soon, Tommy.
All the best, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Aye. Memories, eh? Play tricks on you, Billy, didn't they? Memories.
What's that?
Memories.
I don't know, mate. There's that. The goalie was that good in all games, mate. It's. I mean, you could.
Oh, we'll be joined by Kenny. I think he's got to show us what the telly on. All right, Kenny.
Aye, all right, Ox. How you doing, mate?
You turn your telly or the show off, whatever it is.
I've done it.
Cheers, mate. Sorry, Billy, I'll cut across you. Be right back to you, mate. Evening, Kenny.
Aye, all right, Ox. How you doing, mate? All right.
Good,
all
mate.
these guys. Aye, Andy Gorham, we keep fair. I was talking to my daughter about him, and she saw it with McGregor, obviously, but to me, Andy shaded it, just some of his stuff, just some of his unbelievable saves, he pulled it up. And the one against Win Hoydon, the one he crashed on the volley for about 2 yards out, I'll never forget that save. How he saved that, I'll never know. And that, you can give, I'm of that generation, I can remember the 70 World Cup as a young boy, and they saved Gordon Banks for Pelly, with the heater, you'll probably remember it. And obviously, I was one of that saves is just as good. It's one of the greatest saves of all time. How he saved that for his height, to get that left arm when it threw it around the post. It was a cert goal, And you get into the Champions League, the games, against Leeds United, and Ellenwood, Cantona, and great goalkeeper, sad miss, so many people going to the club. Then going to David Wilson. I knew David Wilson quite well, actually. My youngest daughter, his granddaughter was in my daughter's class at school, so I used to see David quite regular if I was going to pick up my daughter. Hell of a nice guy. He just, we were saying earlier on, pure gentleman, But again, just before my time, see the footage of David and what a player, but as for the club, I remember Rangers' first game, actually. I met him after all the shit that happened to us at the time. We were playing at Ibrox. It was after I remember, years ago. It was after the Brecon game. I think it was our first game back. And I met Davey Ranty. I was going to Ibrox.
He's 5 game. He's 5.
Aye, he's 5, that's right. The kick-off got delayed that night as well. And I met Davey that night. I was with my flat and that. And he was walking down the Wood Rangers tap on that. He said, keep supporting the club, we'll be back. He was Mr. Rangers, Lovely, lovely guy.
Aye, you're here, mate. You're here.
It just seems lately, with Walter, the loss of Walter, Jimmy Bell, Davey, and Andy, and just been a bad 9 months for the club, but they'll never be forgotten,
Aye. Legends. I think that the sad thing about Andy is that he's far too young for anybody. 58 is, I know it happens to people younger, but still he's a relatively young man, Kenny.
Oh, aye. I mean, he's 58 in age at all, Then he was diagnosed with, the 46 month crick. He didn't even get 6 weeks, so sad, But I'm sure the fans in that will give him a good send off. I know I'll be there. The guy's just a legend to me, He's my favourite goalkeeper, And I love Alan McGregor and all, incidentally. But to me, Gorham shaded it, But people's all about opinions, But in my opinion, Gorham was slightly better. And I think actually McGregor would maybe say someone, he was just slightly better, Definitely better with the ball at his feet anyway.
Oh, I think so, but I think Alan's got longevity that Andy didn't have, but...
No, we dodge your legs, didn't he?
Aye. Maybe just the way he played the game, but I get it. I mean, I might be tempted towards Gorham myself, south side, but I would understand if people pump for McGregor. I get it with the longevity.
Aye, I agree with Ox, and I can see how some people will. I mean, McGregor's a fantastic goalkeeper, don't get me wrong. Absolutely fantastic for what he's done for the Rangers. But I'd say, like I said at the end of the show, we had this debate before, and for me, Andy Gorham still shades it. He was just a big time player, great mentality. The two of them it's hard to probably split them, because when you come to Glasgow Rangers and you play as a goalkeeper, they all see concentration. Usually you're only asked to make 1 or 2 saves in a game and you're going to be ready. And that's what most of your top goalkeepers did have a good level of concentration for Kridsovich, Andy Gorham, Stephen Kloss, Alan McGregor and that. So, but for me, Kenny, I still thought Andy Gorham just shaded it in some of the performances. And McGregor's had some cracking performances in Europe. I mean, against Red Star, if it wasn't for him in the first half, and Red Star away would have been 3-0 done. So I don't want to, so they are close, but just in my own opinion, I'm still sticking with the goalie. For me, he's the greatest goalkeeper I've ever seen for the Glasgow Rangers at the moment.
Right. The thing is, Southside, they've always been blessed with good goalkeepers, really. You can get back Big McCloy, Chris Woods, Lonnie Andy and Stephen Kloss. They've always been blessed with good goalkeepers. McGregor, with 1 or 2 maybe dodgy ones, but even the boys that came in, at times, who was it? I'm trying to remember, who was the Israeli goalkeeper? Ginsburg, was it Ginsburg?
Bonnie Ginsburg.
Oh, do you remember the game he played at? It was away game at
Easter Road. Easter Road.
No, Celtic, it was a Parkhead, it was, and they save after save. I think it ended up a draw that day. I can't remember, such a long time ago, but he was outstanding that day and all that, We've always seemed to just been blessed with good goalkeepers, back to the early 60s, put my time, Richie and all that, but Rangers definitely have been lucky with goalkeepers over the years, because to me, it just shades it Southside. Just certain things, and these people have ability with his feet, unfortunately, McGregor's not that great with his feet, but he's got it in other ways. But it's another legend away for us, David Wilson a few weeks ago. But they'll never be forgotten.
No. I mean, obviously, and then that's what you see. Football's about medals and winning games. Just say it's not about money, and it's not the be all and end all. The game's about memories, and when you're done, isn't it? No, well, for some people it'll be how much money you've got in the bank, but it's not for everybody, is it?
No, it isn't, Oxtra. And he certainly gave us a lot of memories, didn't he? And as the previous guys have said, he won't be forgotten, neither will Davy B. And all of the successes they've had, and saves they've made, and goals scored, and appearances, and titles won, those are the things that we will be talking about forever. And that's what's really important.
Yeah. Aye, sad time for the club. We Walter and obviously the Jimmy Bell situation as well, Kenny. But obviously Andy Gorham, the youngest out of a lot of them, to pass away, sad illness, and he dealt with it with bravery, mate. Well,
his bravery was there for all to see, to refuse the chemotherapy. I mean, I done it a couple of years ago for that chemotherapy, and I seen what that done to him. And I always said to myself, well, there's never unfortunate in that position. I don't think I would take it myself, because he's got a bit of time in him, through it. But what he went through, I seen it, and it was horrible. It really was horrible. Couldn't swallow anything. Still the same, struggles to swallow, and it's a horrible. Chemotherapy's not an nice. And after that, I mean, take it. It was a big decision with Andy. Look what I gave him anyway. He probably wouldn't have got that. He'd have been too ill, At least when he died, with his old teammates in his bed and that,
Yeah, aye. And Kenny, Billy, Andy Gorham, he played with a few teams, obviously started with Bury and went to the Hibs and then us, and Motherwell and Man United. People forget that as well, don't you? I mean, he must have loved the game.
He did actually. He had some club career, I know, not just at the Rangers. I mean, I think he played with about 11 different clubs. Elgin, Queen of the South, Sheffield United, Manchester United, Notts County, Hibs, Motherwell, Hamilton, Rangers, Oldham twice. I think that's where he finished. I could be wrong, but I mean that's a phenomenal record to just in club football, mate. You know what I mean? And the short time he played the game, because he retired young too, remember? So I mean, plus his international career, mate. I think it's 43 or 44 caps he had for Scotland. So that's just fantastic. So it is. What a career in football that he had. So he did. Brilliant.
Yeah. Bridgeman. Character on and off the park, Andy Gorham.
Huge character of and on. Off the park, he was incredible. I mean, he made a lot of friends in the bookies and things like that, didn't he? You know, people would bump into him in the street going out of the bookies. He's a great character, wonderful, and Rangers in his heart at all times. In my opinion, Rangers in his heart, and the fans just loved him. Just loved talking to him. Probably got some good stories out of him as well. Yeah, you know, I just think the guy was the best Rangers goalkeeper, most assuredly, in my memory. But I mean, I can go back as far as George Niven, and I'm sure there was sort of reserve goalkeepers there, but George Niven and Billy Ritchie, all the way through to the great Andy Gorham, and then you end up with a cracking goalkeeper at Rangers at the moment, Alan McGregor. Wow, he's a wonder kid, absolutely superb goalkeeper. So we've done well. Rangers have always seemed to do well. Stefan Klos, Charbonnier, Latterus, they were great goalkeepers with Rangers. Marvellous. But I think Andy Gorham, I mean, all the guys that have said it tonight, they can't say too much about the chap. He's just wonderful. Wonderful goalkeeper. Sadly missed.
We've been joined by Billy. Another Billy.
How you doing?
Evening, Billy.
A long time no speak.
How you doing, mate?
I'm so-and-so. Just a point about so sad about Andy.
Mm-hmm.
And he never, when it was a short thing for him. I'd just like to put across a hopeful note, if that's okay.
On you go, Billy.
It's just a funny one about Andy. Always, before I say that story, that's a true story. He was actually the best out of all the Rangers keepers. I would say he was up there. He was a top keeper, and I think we've had magic keepers all through the years and whatnot. But the one thing I always remember was when he stayed near Hamilton, and he was doing the Hamilton Park golf course. I don't know who he was playing golf with, but I was quite avid at the fishing at the time, so I was fishing the pond at the back end, and he near hurt me in the back of the head at the par 3. Just to put a wee light side on it. And I turned around, and I'm quite sure it was actually Barry Ferguson, it was Andy Gorham, and it was the Dutchman that's...
Michael Moles.
No,
Arthur Newman.
Arthur Newman. He stayed in Smithycroft at the time on the Fernergear Road. But I got the golf ball.
I think my other Billy's got an Andy Gorham story about fishing around you, Billy.
Oh, brilliant, mate. It was funny, right? I had Andy's number and that, and used to text one another and have a wee carry on and that. I says, you fancy a bit of fishing and that? He says, aye, used to, if you want. He says, but I'm not getting any gear or that. He says, all my stuff's in me. I said, listen, I'll get you a pair of waders and that. So we had a race night for the Bathgate Jack, mate, right? So he'd tell the boys, and he says, "Aye, wee Billy's got me a pair of waders. We're going fishing." All the boys in the Rangers club are looking. I says, "What are you talking about?" He says, "No, I'm telling you, he's bringing them in the night." So I thought he was at the wind up. So in me and the missus and Big Bill in me goes, "Man, I've got the box of waders." I says, "There you go, Andy, there your waders." He says, I told you. The wee man would never let me do it. He got the waders out and that, man. It was so funny. He signed gloves and all that for our Billy and that Ox. What a laugh it was, mate. It was fantastic. So it was with the waders, man, brilliant.
You know what you need very good waders, Billy?
Oh, mate, what's that? A pair of glasses?
Good braces.
I'm looking for a good pair.
Or a set of jet skis.
The guy was totally down to earth. As I say, he stayed in Hamilton for a wee while. And I met him, Arthur Newman and Craig Moore.
Right.
They were obviously on a wee, just after their careers had actually petered out. And they were going up the Charterville Country Park in Hamilton. So I was like that. I was going by, so as you get closer, I recognised them and whatnot. And they were like, "Have you caught anything?" And it was Arthur Newman. He says, oh, I love fish. He says, "I absolutely love fish." I says, "Well, I will sell you some." Salmon. He says, "No, I don't have that kind of money." I says, "Arthur, you stayed in there." I says, "That's the uphill. You stayed in the boat and the biggest." But see, in all honesty, what a man he was. What a man.
Cheers, Billy. Aye. I know he's a friend to a lot of people.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. Southside.
All the best to you. Pardon?
Cheers, Billy.
Right,
Cheers,
thanks.
mate.
All the best to you. Bye-bye.
I think there's going to be a lot of stories Southside, then Jaffa, with Andy Gorham, and people. Were they the last generation that was maybe approachable as things moved on in the game? The players a bit more aloof, just naturally. Everybody is now. Is that the way in society in general, maybe?
Come to me, Ox, aye.
Southside, then Jaffa.
I said that just a wee while earlier. I said that the players then were a lot more approachable. We used to have a lot of the players at our dances and do's and stuff over the years, but no, in the last good wee while, it all changed. Probably as well, Ox's mobile phones and stuff, people want to take photos or switch their video cameras on and stuff, and sometimes players now are a wee bit more on their guard these days, But back in the day, the players were a lot more approachable than they are now, which is just a sad fact, but it's just the way the modern professionals go on now. I think they do everything through certain companies and they've got their own Instagrams and they're a lot more accessible through their own social media if they choose to be. But no, these days try to get a player to come to a dance. Easy. They're looking about £500 to £1,000 for a player to turn up now for a dance, which is sad because we support them all season for the stands, home and away, and as you're asking for, sometimes there's a wee bit in return, a wee bit of their own time. But I know they give up a lot of their time for hospitals and other things and functions and charities, but it's hard sometimes now, I think, Ox, to get the players to come to do that. That's what I'm trying to say now than it was back in the day.
Aye, things have changed, Jaffa, then Juicy.
Oh, they have, Ox. Aye. I mean, I was hearing Billy there saying the boys out in the golf course, they might have been going out for a wee drink. I was just thinking it would have been Barry Ferguson taking them to the Cocoa Club, probably. He knew the dancing room about Hamilton very well. But yeah, I mean, I saw Andy myself. I bumped into him a few. In fact, most recently, he was talking about the amount of clubs that he had there, Oxy. But I think he was doing some work down at Cambuslang Rangers. Just in last year, I think he was still down there coaching the goalies and stuff. So I met him down there at the fun day last year, and he was chatting away to all the kids, what the guys were saying, and having these pictures taken. But to allude in what Southside's saying, you'll be hard pushed to get a modern footballer to turn up at a do nowadays. They're just so worried about making a picture look out to be something that it isn't. Somebody taking a phone or taking a picture of them. So those days are over, I'm afraid.
Yes, pictures there. Just say St Andrews, Bella Madeira, that's what I'm saying. All right, right, well, just a bit.
Yeah, if you look at social media now and how, in fairness, players now, we can actually see what they're up to probably a greater extent than the past. But we certainly don't have that access to them, do we, that we did in the past. So, you know, players like Bassi and Aribo, they're posting all the time on their Instagram. So we've got access to them, but not to actually talk to them or meet them. That's far harder than it used to be. And it's always nice, you know, if you've ever been on the tours of Ibrox and that, where you can actually get to meet some of the ex-players that are club ambassadors now, and that, you know, some of the guys do the tours. You know, there is still some ways that you can access some of the previous generations, but the current crop, it's really hard to see them in this day and age in terms of actually meeting them.
Yeah, it's all right, Kenny, with the people that's got the money you've got, but for us normal people, it's a bit different. You're not in the circles you cut, Kenny.
The players now they're near all this Friday, they're back in the 70s, 80s. I mean, I remember going to the Rangers rallies and that, you know, in the Kilburn Hall, you know. I mean, they were great nights, you know. And the players of the year dances in the 80s, of Richard Gough and turning up and number one year Ali Dawson, nice guy, a nice guy and all. Used to meet loads of players. I mean, I'll give you an example. After the Scottish Cup final a couple of months ago, we went back to Ibrox to see the team coming back, and they came off the bus, and there was hardly, apart from Tavern here, the manager, and some man or other, the two the Gaelic fans of David, they went there for quite a while, incidentally, you know, and I found that, you know, you know, a wee bit, you know, the Gaelic fans a wee bit more back. Tavernier certainly didn't. I was within feet of him with the Scottish Cup. But the rest of them, more or less, just came right after that coach and straight into Ibrox, you know, that gave the fans a wee bit more back. And that's just a sign of the times, I'm afraid, you know. They're definitely more aloof than they were years ago. They were more approachable. And Gorham was part of the approachable generation, you know what I mean? But saying that, I mean, I did, one of the last times I was on the show, I mean, I did meet Big Connor and Goldstein. And I did predict this, I need to remember it. He was fight Ibrox. Here he is. After talking to him, I had to. Yeah?
Maybe fear of you, mate.
Can't hear you.
Maybe it was fear of you.
You see the size of him. I'm no small myself, but crikey. But I said that on the show. I felt just something telling me that £1 million quid I'd put it on him Stein. But he was all right, Connor Goldstein, I have to say. Couldn't he talk away to the guy for about 10 minutes and couldn't be more, you know, and taking nice photos and that, and you know, we're constantly getting to Seville and that, you know, and you know, he was all right, you know. And then I flew down to London. When was it? 2 weeks ago there. I was down to London for the weekend, and right in front of me, within 6 to 8 feet was Liam Balogun, which just put his case for on the belt, and his girlfriend. And I was like, Liam Balogun, I'm going to try and Craig, he went right through, he went right into the VIP lounge, and I couldn't get a hold of him. I nearly was going to get a selfie with him, you know. But he seemed quite a nice guy, you know. But I never get the opportunity, unfortunately.
Jaffa's mate. Jaffa.
I've met Big Leon. He's a lovely big guy. Good to talk to. And Kenny, I no doubt if you saw his lady, you probably got an opinion on her as well. She was rather beautiful.
I was classed her as a model.
She was, mate. Yeah.
She looked a model, which means she was stunning looking, you know. But as I said, I got a chance. He was right through, and then it was a hold up with her bags on the belt hang, and he was away. And I kept looking out to see if I could get him. By that time, we know he'd be leaving Rangers anyway, you know. But I would have put him on the approachable type, you know. The modern day footballers, the majority were just, you know, they're self-absorbed, you know. The way I find them, you know. It's a shame, really, you know, because the fans, they give so much, you know. But again, they do and other things, you know, the charities and the hospitals and suppose and all that, you know. But it's just a different generation, different times we're living in, you know.
Different times. But the last word on Davy Wilson and Andy Gorham, to the legend that is the Bridgeman.
Andy Gorham, fabulous goalkeeper. I I never saw anything like him. He looked so small in the goals, really so small, and but he brought something about him that the fans just loved and adored. He used to love running up and get his knees on the side there and hug the fans, and it was just great. He had a great rapport with them, and they loved him to bits. They really did. And he should have, if he could have stayed at Ibrox forever, he would have stayed at Ibrox. The fans would have loved him, seriously. That's how much he's thought of. I can't say anything nasty, bad, or any way negative about the guy. I just loved him to bits, and I'm sure all the rest of the fans did as well. But Andy Gorham, seriously, for me, best step.
David Wilson, Bridge?
David Wilson, he had a fantastic career at Rangers, and he ended up playing with the Barton and as assistant manager with them. He stayed with them for about 4 or 5 years before he retired altogether from football. But he was a really, really wonderful player for us. Great international, held himself well, spoke well. A real gentleman, and he was very approachable. Again, he also great. Just meet him in the street and talk to him, as folk have done at Ibrox when they're going round visiting. It's just the guy was class. That's what he had, class, and that's what a lot of players learned when they were with Rangers. They learned how to be classy and keep yourself to yourself type of thing, but enjoy yourself, whatever you can do. And Davy Wilson epitomised that. He had a fabulous trick. He ran down the wing and he stood in the ball and kept on running. Just left the ball behind him, and the fullback could catch up on that. That was a tremendous trick because people just didn't know what he was going to do. Thought he was going to run out of space or something like that. And all of a sudden, the ball's 10 yards behind him. Fantastic stuff. Great to watch. Clever player. Again, sadly missed. Sadly missed.
R.I.P. David Wilson. R.I.P. Andy Gorham, the goalie. Get yourselves on mute, lads, because we're going to have a tune.
How many years ago, my boys, I left the Glasgow town. I followed the pull of the Yankee land and here settled down. Although I met the Bridgeton Cross and my friends so near and dear, but I would give if I could have the Rangers over here. You can talk of California where the sun shines all the year. You can bomb about your Broadway light so clear. But it would fill my heart with sadness, it would fill my heart with cheer if we only had the Rangers over here. For they're the finest team in all the land, and I'm sure that you'll agree. To see them win is something grand, it's part of history. For the boys who fear no noise, my lads, and I mean that's quite sincere. What I would give if I could have the Rangers over here. You can buck of California where the sun shines all the year. You can bum about your Broadway life so clear. But it would fill my heart with gladness, it would fill my heart with cheer. And we only had the Rangers over here. I'm sure that you'll agree. To see them win is something grand, it's part of history. For the boys who fear no noise, my lads, and I mean that's quite sincere. What I would give if I could have the Rangers over here. You can talk of California where the sun shines all the year. You can bomb about your Broadway life so clear. But it would fill my heart with sadness, it would fill my heart with cheer. And we only had the Rangers over here. And we only had the Rangers over here. And we only had the Rangers over here.
Well, thanks for that, Fox. That's for our American Bears on the USA. Obviously, Independence Day. Well back, gentlemen?
Yes, indeed.
Yep.
All back.
All back. Will you go there for a snack, Billy?
Aye, mate, I was there, buddy. I just jumped up and had a wee Scooby snack.
Oh, you've been caught out before with that, haven't you?
Absolutely, mate. A wee chalky biscuit.
They'll learn.
Man's a shocker.
They'll learn. So, we've been really active in the transfer market since we left you. Jaffa.
I know. Where do you start with that one, Ox? I think a lot of us are getting a wee bit jittery, aren't we? There's nothing really happening. I mean, I think we're interested in obviously the Croatian boy Kolak. And we've signed quite a lot of young kids, haven't we? For the B Academy team. Other than that, there doesn't seem to be a lot happening. I think we must be waiting for things to happen on the other end, Ox, I can only assume.
It's a difficult...
We got a youngster in, didn't we? That boy Lovelace. He came in, didn't he?
He's 16 years of age. He's not going to be a first
youngster.
team.
I'm saying youngster. You know, he's straight into the B team.
When you seen that, you thought you were looking for a blue movie, Lovelace, didn't you? You know. But Southside, look, there's been a lot of movement, and some of the Bears have been all over Europe. Yeah?
Oh, aye, certainly have. Are you talking about I thought this was meant to be private. Are we going to discuss this about a jet ski?
Oh, I don't know any story about a jet ski. I know a story about somebody, sounds like pox, getting cramp with a nurse, with braces involved, but that's another story, mate.
Aye, no, the one of the panellists, right, we Mehmet and Fatima, right, they did the boats in Turkey, right, and seemingly Mehmet was on the phone and he says to me, "You're not going to believe this, mate." He says, "There's some big gentleman just about to go on a jet ski and he has this big, huge Rangers radio flag. Do you know anything about it?" I was like, "Mehmet, no." I said, "What sort of size is he?" He said, "He's rather quite a big gentleman." Anyway, seemingly he's...
I heard that Rangers radio flag was a beach towel, mate.
Well, it was certainly a big flag, and seemingly as he was coming back in, he's crashed off the jet ski, and Mehmet says it was like a tidal wave coming into the beach. So all the sunbathers were running for cover, and the wee guy, and I can't remember his name. I'll come back to me. The wee guy that sells the sunbeds, he was raging with the biggin, absolutely raging. Cost him all his business for the rest of the afternoon because he'd flooded the beach.
Oh well, I'm sure we'll get the right story soon. Yeah, if half it's true, Southside, if half it's true. You can also, he came back and said he was speaking to somebody today who was a bit concerned because he'd lost 2 majors points. Is there any truth in this story?
No, it was 10.
10. All right, okay, 10.
10. Aye. I took 10 points off me. I don't know how. I'm sure you'll come up with an idea of how I've lost 10 points. But I've...
Behaviour.
Oh, is that what it is, was it? All right, well, 10 points for bad behaviour.
That wasn't bad, really, when you think about it.
That's no bad. For the offence, I think 10's no bad.
All right. I'm sure we'll hear from the big end soon enough. But what's your thinking of how it's going? And then we'll go to Juicy Bear. It's difficult modern football. If you go plunge and people stay, I mean, I think a lot of people, bar Kenny, thought that maybe Connor Golson was going to be gone, so we've signed him. So the defence maybe didn't need as much work as we thought. And then you've got, do you have to wait? Do you have to sell before you buy? Is that what you're thinking at Southside? And Juicy?
I think the Premier League down there, I think they've got a ruling, didn't they? They usually shut their transfer window down early, don't they? So we might be looking to see sort of what teams finalise their squads. I'm not too worried, Ox, to be honest. Now, I'd like to have thought we might have had some targets. I think there will be movement for some of your players, because I think if they've got I'm sure they shut their window down, and then I think other clubs around Europe can go and get their players the way they voted. So there will be players there and squads that we might be able to pick up, and maybe that's what we've looked at. So the new mate, I'm not too fussed. I think we'll all see a few exits, and I think we'll maybe see activity over the next 7 to 10 days, maybe a player. But I think we're maybe waiting to a bit later on, mate, till after the European qualifiers. I don't think we'll see 2 or 3 in so quickly before that.
Juicy?
There hasn't been much news, has there, in terms of the speculation, other than the youngsters that we brought in. There's been some speculation today about us potentially mounting a loan bid for James McAtee, 19-year-old who's at Man City, who's on the fringes of their first team. That would be unbelievable if we could get him as a loan signing. And then, as you said earlier, Kolak from PAOK. I'm comfortable with the defence. We've kept Goldson. We've got King who can come in. Katic has come back. Now, I know lots of people will have various opinions on who the ideal starting lineup would be. But I don't think any of us can disagree that we've got some options there at the back. I think the midfield is looking good. Obviously, we've still got Hadji to come back from injury, and we know he's not going to be immediately ready from the start of the season. But it's up front, which I'm a little bit concerned about. We 100% need an additional striker. We've, of course, lost Itten. We know that the front line wasn't firing last season in terms of the goals. But that being said, we had injuries as well. We had Alfredo out at the worst possible time. Ruth got injured then at the worst possible time. And we need to do something about that tricky right wing position as well. So aside from those 2 positions, it's depending on just who we retain. If we lose anyone else, we'll have to fill those slots. Obviously, a lot of speculation on Aribo, Alfredo and Kent. We might lose one of them. But we could afford losing one of the midfield. But if we were to lose another striker, then we've got some real investing to do. And it's going to have to be before those Champions League games, because otherwise they're going to pass us by.
Yeah, Kenny, the striker situation, I mean, can you get through a whole season modern football with 2 strikers? I don't know if you can.
Personally, myself, I think we need to sign 2 strikers. We've been on it for a wee while. Alfie, his maximum this season is 17. We need somebody that's hitting 25, 30 at least. So the striking position to me is the side. They need 2 strikers in, and just so you're right, they need a right-sided player. I've not had that right-sided player since days. Scott Wright's alright coming on for some. It's an impact player, but he had this chance last season when Kent was injured, and they couldn't hold in that position. So that's got to be addressed. Defensively, I think they're looking alright. But I'm not overly worried right now with Rangers. They say we keep all the business in-house. The fans, I'm sure the signings will come. But what I don't want is going out in the new season the way we did last season with this thing like Goldstein, but he's going to sign a contract. Because to me, that had a dire effect on Rangers at the start of last season. It unsettled the team. I'm pretty sure of that. I'm not saying it was the blame for everything, but if Kent, Morelos, are not going to sign new deals, they need to go, because it's unsettling in the team. They've got to get this tied up.
That's the hard thing in modern football. I said it before on the show with the Golson situation. Jaffa, the players, and then Billy. The players have got the power. They can sit and just weigh up their options, leave for nothing, see out the contract, don't move the summer before because they don't want to. It's not just their club, it's every club, isn't it?
Absolutely, Hawks. And I mean, let's not be kidding about it. I mean, the riding your contract out and waiting to the end of it is hugely beneficial to the player, because they're ultimately moving on to a massive signing on fee usually. More often than not, wrapped into their salary, which is grossly inflated, and that suits the player down to the T. You've got to hope that the players are fair to Rangers. I mean, Rangers have been very fair to both Morelos and to Kent. I agree with Kenny. If the guys are not going to sign a new contract and sign an extension of their current contract, then we have to try and do what we possibly can to get them get them moved on, because we need guys that are going to be there for the next 2 or 3 years, 3 to 4 year contract, depending on who you bring in, what you get back in return. I mean, we've all read the press, the reports about the Morelos possibly with Seville interested at £7 million. I mean, I think that's offensive, to be honest with you. I think he's worth much more than that. But as you say, Ox, the power's all with the players, and that's the difficult part nowadays. You know, the clubs need to manage that.
Billy?
I am 100% with Jaffa as well. Yourselves and that, mate. It's crazy. Like, you know, and then you've got the agents. The agents are making a fortune out of it as well, and that's unfortunately the way it is now in football. Like, you know, I mean, we've got 3 big major assets there. I mean, in the perfect scenario was you get them signed on for another couple of years on their contract. Then, when if somebody did come in for them, then they've got to pay the going rate for them. But it'd be a shame to lose the 3 big players that you're talking about, Aribo, Morelos, or Kent, or something like that, or whatever one of them. If they do go for peanuts, because you're worth a hell of a lot of money, Ox. You know what I mean?
Your contract length dictates the fee as well, Southside.
Sorry, what would you say there? Sorry, I missed that.
Your contract length dictates the fee as well, you know?
Aye, 100%. With that year left, sometimes you can get a wee bit extra in certain players, but with the 3 of them on the last year of their contracts, I still maintain that if it's a Rebo, at least we should still be able to command 10 million. That's the least I would be looking to sell him for with a year left in his contract. So the way we've done it, and we've let them run it down, whether they wanted to sign or there's been something in the background that we never get into it because of the way football is now, and we maybe thought we could nail it later on. I don't know. But I still think for the fee, we're looking still for £10 million for Aribo, mate, in my opinion. I think that's the minimum figure he'll go for with a year left.
All right, okay. It's interesting to see how it pans out. Fans get excited by new players, but we'll see what people have got to say, so let's hear from you.
Why don't you give us a call on 0141 356 1972. It's your show, it's your platform. Let's hear from you.
It'd be interesting to see what people think. Is Goldson equivalent to a new signing? Is it important? Would you rather keep a Rebo or gamble and bring people in? Or do people think if players want to go, you shake hands, get what you can and you move on? You know, I suppose it's the transfer windows you have for it.
Well, that's true, Ox. That's where we are. I mean, Southside was asking earlier on there about it's a suggestion when the English transfer. I was just checking it there. It's the 1st of September. The English transfer window shuts down. So there is quite a bit of time still to go, but players are starting to manoeuvre. And, you know, I read just earlier on today, I think Southampton are quoted heavily interested in Aribo, but apparently he's got a £10 million exit clause on his contract, and I agree. If we got 10 million for Aribo, I'm not saying he's worth that. I think he's better than that. But if we get that and it allows us to reinvest in the squad and try and bring a few Magio's his own players in, I'd like to think we've got targets sitting ready to go. If things like that happen, you know, that's why we've got a director of football in the background. So you've got to put your trust in these guys and hope that they're doing their job properly.
Yeah, I think Joe Aribo's worth more than that, but I think it's when you've only got a year left in your contract. That's the problem you've got, mate. That's always a problem you've got. Jaffa, yeah, that's always the issue.
It is, mate. Yep, yeah. And of course, I mean, if he's sitting on a 3-year contract and people come in for him, all the other hope is, Ox, if people in down south believe that they can get him for 10 million, I mean, I think we would all agree on here, Joe Aribo at 10 million is a steal, isn't he? So you might end up getting 2 or 3 involved in the bidding, which then would maybe squeeze the price up a wee bit more. You're certainly not going to get up to the 20s, but you might get to 13s or 14s, and you're then in it's a different conversation, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Can I come in, Alex? Yeah.
Yes, mate. Can you come?
Just to say that the situation with Golson last season, and it went on and on and on. I wonder if these players want to do the same as what Golson done and sort of hang on and see what Rangers offer them, and just sign back on again. Because, for instance, if Aribo, who's playing really well at international level, if he thinks that somebody's going to come out, they're going to offer for a guy with a European experience he's got and the international experience, and they're only going to offer £10 million, because that's what I would think they're thinking. I mean, young Kent's already worth, 7-8 million we bought him for. So, these guys are roughly the same value, I would suggest. And I'm talking up to £15 million to start with they two. I don't know whether anybody else agrees. Obviously, it's the market is going to drive it, but I think they would rather sign on than go, because they're going to bring their own price down.
I know they'll not care about that, because if I'm their agent, I'm saying to X, Y, or Z, I've got your £30 million player. You can get him at 10 million, but if he signs for you, he wants the wages.
That's a cracking point. But I don't know how the players are going to react, because they had a tremendous season last season, a great run in the Europa League area, and obviously they ended up winning a Scottish Cup, which was great for them. They've all got medals now, and they admitted losers medal in the Europa League. But the truth is they're there, and they're in at that level. They're in at that level, and I don't know if they know what that level is. And that they should be saying to their agent, no, I don't even think about going below 15 million. I'll just re-sign for Rangers. Because they're young enough, aren't they? They've got to get a 4-year deal with Rangers at the same contract, and they're there for life.
I think when that league down the road, Billy, kicks in, it's mental, the money in it.
Aye, Ox, it's crazy, mate. It's sorry, buddy. Can you hear me all right?
Aye.
Aye, sorry, it's crazy, mate. The money. But I'll tell you, there is bargains out there, mate. I was just taking a wee look there. I keep a wee eye on the Dutch football and that Ox backing for it, and obviously we've our management teams are that way orientated. And there's a guy that plays for what do you cry out? AZ Alkmaar. I think and Evangelos or Evangel. I think I can't get his pronunciation right. Evangelos Palvidid. That's a tongue twister. And he's a Greek player, and the boy's only 23-year-old. I mean, his goal ratio is tremendous, mate. And he's rated only just over £3 million. I mean, that's a snap. How clubs are not sniffing about that boy? Because he scored, I think, something like 20 odd goals in 60 games for Willem II, and he scored something like, I think it's 25 goals in 51 appearances for AZ Alkmaar last season, mate. Now, that's a good gold average, mate. You know what I mean? One in every couple of games there, mate. So there is players out there that can come in for the Rangers if they sell one of these players on. So it's not a doom and gloom, mate. There's as I've said a million times, mate, there's obviously we've got assets there, buddy, too, with the players that's getting linked with different clubs, but there's been bigger and better players than them left the Rangers, mate. So, and I'm sure that if they do move on, there's only one step. They're gone, mate, and it's done,
Aye, well, they'll never play for a bigger club. Is that fair, Kenny?
Oh, you'll never play for a bigger club after you leave Rangers, that's for sure. But just what the boy was saying there, I mean, I'm pretty surprised we've not been linked with more sort of Dutch players myself, given Gio and Ray McKay that, because we've been historically, Rangers have been using that market quite a lot over the years, especially under Advocat, and he was manager. So I would expect maybe a wee bit of movement through Holland, but you just don't know the Rangers, But the main thing to me right now, I mean, the one that really worries me is Basson. If they get a big offer, say 25 million plus, they're going to accept that. And that's, to me, is a big loss for the choice as a team, because he's been outstanding, But if they're applying their business model but they've got to accept it, you know. So that becomes a problem. I think myself, Adebo will go. I definitely think he's going to go. But it's up for debate whether Kent and Morelos go. And actually, I said earlier, don't get into next season with this uncertainty of the spine or what. If they they're not going to sign it, try and move them on. That's what because at the start of last season, I was demented with Goldstein. As much as my big mate now, right, you know, but I wasn't too happy with him, you know.
Is it a new signing, Southside Golson signing? Did you see it coming personally?
No, I didn't. No, I certainly didn't see it coming. I thought he was working his ticket. I'd said that. I thought if he was going to sign, he would maybe have signed between the international breaks back then. And they run about September, October, November time, and he didn't. But fair play to him. It would probably have cost a large amount of money to replace him for the consistency and the amount of games he plays. He's a leader. He organises. So for us, hopefully, because we've had him injury free, and I don't wish anything, but you know, he could pick up an injury, and obviously we'd have to have cover. We seem to have enough cover there. And as you say, Kenny, about Bassey for me, if the price is right, the model is we move them on, and if we get a decent offer and the boys want to go, then I believe we move them on, because that might be the biggest transfer fee that we'll get this summer for one of your players. Who's to say he doesn't pick up an injury next season, is out for a while, and then comes back and doesn't play or kick on as well. He's on fire now, and rightly so, because he's displays. So I think if a silly offer comes in, round about the 20 million mark or whatever, then it'd be madness not to move the boy on. Unfortunately, I think that's what we've got today.
Is that the madness of football, Juicy? £20 million for Calvin Bassey. Now, we know how good he was from January onwards. He was superb. But the most consistent player, I don't know, maybe in Europe. And definitely for us, and definitely in Scotland, even though we won the league title, but Bassey was consistent, and some of his performances for the defence were outstanding. But 6 months before that, if somebody had said Bassey was leaving, somebody's come in with a £5 million bid, people wouldn't have batted an eyelid, would they?
Well, if you think 12 months ago, Oxford, he was involved in that unfortunate COVID gathering with some of the other young players, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And the feeling amongst some of the callers to this show was, get him out, get them all out. We don't want them at the club because they've given us some bad publicity, and that's the view of those people. I'm not going to think less of anyone for having that view. It wasn't a great moment, but they were just young boys. And it was unfortunate, but when you actually broke that down, they were only within their group of players and their girlfriends. But it was what it was, and we had to deal with that. And had he gone that summer, not too many people would have probably thought any more of it. They just thought, young player that we've moved on, bit of a profit, happy days. You roll on a year now, and we're talking 20 million, 25 million plus, and what an impact that would make on our transfer budgets and overall budget for the club if we moved him on. Financially, it would be fantastic. From a footballing standpoint, would be a massive loss because he's been absolutely superb. And I can't think of many players, guys, who in such a short period have made that kind of impact from being the second sort of player in that position behind Barisic to suddenly becoming an absolute beast, not just domestically, but in Europe and internationally for his country as well. The guy played so many matches, not too far below Rebo in terms of number of appearances in a season. Just crazy, really. The guy has been fantastic. I'd love for him to stay. I'd rather one of the guys who's only got a year left go. But I totally understand money talks in this day and age. But wherever he goes, whatever he decides to do, he's going to be wonderful for wherever he appears. I just love it. I'd love it if we could get one more season out of him in the Champions League, because we're going to need him.
Yeah, Jaff, the only one that I could think of maybe similarities would be Alan Hutton in his career.
Yeah, 12 million down to Spurs. And it was his kind of breakthrough season, wasn't it? He went very quickly, so...
You know, he had a purple patch for about 6 months as well, yeah.
Yeah, and you're talking about crazy transfers. It's just a quick snapshot. I was reading while we were chatting while you were on air there. You may remember a chap called Manuel Akanji who played for Dortmund. Ryan Kent tore him apart. Well, Inter Milan have bid €30 million for him tonight.
It's mental.
€30 million. He's a Swiss international. He's got a year left of his contract. He's only 26. €30 million they've bid for him. So he didn't look that good against us, and he certainly didn't look like a £30 million player. Nothing like Calvin Bassey anyway. That's for sure.
No, I think some of it, Bridgeman, some of it is the league we play in, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. It's definitely the league we play in. Although, I must admit, over the last 2 seasons, maybe even 3 seasons, Rangers have elevated our league. Most assuredly, they've elevated our league. And anybody who's in it and is coming behind us, in fact, the mob to the other side of the city have actually overtaken us and got themselves into the Champions League proper, which is a sin, you know. That really and truly, that's Rangers that's done all that. The coefficiency is high, sky high, and of course, a lot of these teams in our league will turn in and say, "Well, we're every bit as good as anything in Europe," and well, we know that's not true, but they'll think that. They'll think that because they're there, because Rangers done it all, in my opinion.
Yes. Southside.
Yep.
I know you're a man with a great memory.
Aye, here we go.
5 year a day, where were you?
Don't know, tell me. Oh, aye, up there. No, tell me. Where was I?
Your standard answer's usually court, but Luxembourg wouldn't be.
June, that was me. I think that'd be more July for court. But aye, July, is that what I was?
Luxembourg, mate. 5 years ago, yeah.
Aye. Unbelievable. You can see the difference from then to now in the European one. You know, we look like a European team. You know, we've just been to a UEFA final. And you're talking about players and prices and stuff, and the league you play in and how well you do. Well, Joe Aribo just scored a goal in the final of the Europa League, you know, so it's just a pity there's a year left in his contract. But if you take into consideration how well we've done in Europe, we've put Glasgow Rangers back on the map, Hawks. That's what we had today for being at it for so long, you know, and we've certainly done that.
Who wants to have a go at the team and the 3 substitutes for 5 years ago today and see how we've moved on? Anybody want to have a stab? Feel confident? You going for it, Southside?
No.
Go for it, Southside. Go for it. Go for it.
Oh, no.
Ryan Jack is going on to mute.
Ryan Jack played.
In goal, was he?
No, I'm just saying he played. Was that the one Dalcio came on as a sub?
He did, mate. He did. I'll give you that.
Aye.
But here we go. Wes Foderingham, Fabio Cardozo, Ryan Jack, Kenny Miller, James Tavernier, Lee Wallace, David Bates, Nico Cranshaw, Jordan Rossiter, Alfredo Morelos, Daniel Cadiz with subs, Dalcio, Josh Windass, and Big Aguero, what's his name? The big Mexican centre forward.
Herrera, was it?
Herrera.
That'll do, mate. Yeah. So we've come on a long way. There's only 3 people still at the club: Ryan Jack, James Tavernier, and Alfredo Morelos. Yeah.
What a transformation for those guys, eh? What a transformation to the team that we've got now. Wow, incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And obviously the boys are back at pre-season, building up again. had a behind closed door games, 3-2 against Partick Thistle for seeing the goals, and John Lundstrom scored a good goal. I don't know if anybody's seen that. Juicy.
Yeah, tremendous work by Mr. Scott Wright on the right wing as well, cutting in for that. It looked really good. I like Scott Wright. I mean, I know I was talking about the right wing being a position that we needed to strengthen, and I still stand by that. But I think Kenny said earlier as well that Scott Wright is excellent coming on as an impact player, and I really want that to continue. But in the last few matches of last season, when we called upon him, really didn't do too much wrong. I mean, some of the European matches might have been a bit too much for him, but I honestly believe he's got a lot he could give for us next season or this season. And we just need to add a little bit more strength on that right wing. But Lundstrom, what a quality player. And I was thinking about it, and I know we need to stop going on about it. Why on earth did he not take a pen against Frankfurt? I'll never get my head around why he wasn't one of those guys. But his ability on hitting a dead ball or a ball in play is just excellent. So more of him, please, next season. But I think we've got a squad that can do things, guys. I'm just thinking about the Champions League games because we need to make sure we're ready for those.
Yeah, put the work in. Scott Wright, could he take up the cudgel? Could he surprise us? Kenny, then Billy?
Scott Wright for me is alright domestically, and I'll be honest about it. I think he's a good impact player. He's already said that. But as for Europe, no, we need this right-sided player. But a problem I've got as well, if Kent was to go right, we need a left-sided winger in her. And that's worrying. Also, I mean, get back to Bassey. Rangers right now must be going like, I mean, Barry's right, they've got two left backs, he's playing Bassey in the back four. If an offer was to come in for Bassey, for Warner, right, and they say 6-7 million, something like that, right, and they take it, and then a massive offer comes in for Bassey, which you can't refuse, you've got a real problem there in Austin. You need to be careful. This is quite worrying to me, because the back four looks really settled. And the defensively, I think they look really strong, Rangers. But that's only if they hold on to Bassey. For me, Bassey goes weird weekend, and they're signing that boy for Hearts, as they call him, Suter. But again, he's another one who's injury prone. The midfield, I think, boy. But I heard somebody saying the other day they could be going for Billy Gilman again. They would like to see in the midfield. He's a brilliant new player. But to me, two strikers and definitely a right-sided.
How does he get into your club with all the players that's there? How does he get in?
I know that. Well, that's what I can't answer for. Also, I can't answer that one. Where does he fit into it? Maybe if Kamara was to leave or something like that. But I couldn't answer that in that present midfield. But that one could maybe happen.
Aye, maybe. You never know. Stranger things have happened.
Billy, I'm going to bail out, right?
Yes, mate.
I know. Listen, before I go, see the game on Saturday, Sunderland. Does anybody know the kick-off for that? The time?
Tell you
8 o'clock, Kenny.
It's Saturday night then, aye?
Aye.
I put it up because of the heat there, right? That's fine. Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Right.
Speak to you all soon.
Cheers, Kenny boy.
Right, good night.
See you, Kenny.
Right, bye all.
Right, mate.
When we named that team for 5 years ago, it's pretty frightening, Billy, isn't it?
It's incredible where we've came from, mate. You know what I mean? Just when you writing the players off there. And listen, they were decent enough football players too. You know what I mean? They just weren't good enough at that particular time. But everybody's all played their part. When you look away back to the Ian Black days and all that, do you know what I mean? Everybody's all played their part in the journey to where we are now, mate. But when you were talking about Scotty Wright there, listen, last season, we were all saying on this show, and there were guys coming on, there were callers coming on, and they were saying he wasn't good enough. You know what I mean? He's turned the corner as well. There's Johnny Lundstrom as well. I wouldn't give you tuppence worth for Johnny Lundstrom. How good has he been? You know what I mean? I think Big Katic he'll get a chance as well. But what's worrying me, Ox, is don't know what the rest of the guys think, is with our 3-4 major assets. We're splitting nails with, splitting, what do you call it? Splitting nails basically with 1 year left in their contract, mate. And then when we look at the way the situation happened with Big Golson, when he's seen his contract right out and then they sign him. I mean, that boy's got to be the big man will be a top earner now at Rangers, and if whatever the wage structure is, if he's in the top end, mate, that's, like, for talking's sake, that's £8 million over four seasons, or £4 million if he's on half the wages at the top bracket, mate. So that's what's concerning me with the Rangers. I just hope that our board are boxing clever on this one, because we're definitely light up top, and it was blatantly obvious last season that we were light, especially in Europe. And we're going to need, as Juicy said there, we're going to need a couple of strikers in, and I would like to see another midfielder in there. I know we've got midfielders in there as well, but I'd like to see a football player, mate.
If you want a couple of strikers, I think Mick Lynch is your man to phone, isn't he? Right, but I do agree with you. I'll go to yourself, Chaffer. I do think we need somebody up top. Who that is, but it's difficult. This sort of third striker, how do you sell that job to somebody?
Well, the thing is, that's exactly right, Ox. I mean, you don't. That's not the remit. The remit is to come in and compete and make the number one spot yours, and that goes for between Alfredo and Roof. That's there at the moment. I mean, I like Kemal Roof. I think he's a great player, but he just doesn't give you enough game time. He spends too many time. His injuries have been really racking up. He's had some bad ones this last 12 months. So the third striker, Ox, I agree with you. If it's Kolak, I'm not going to lie, Ox, I've only seen what I saw him at Ibrox. I don't know a lot about the guy. He seemed to hit it off at his loan spell at Malmo. I didn't even know he was on loan at Malmo until his name appeared. I thought he was one of their players. I didn't know he was from PAOK. Who knows, Ox? It's a difficult one. It is really tricky. Because we need more bodies, and we need some help up top, and we definitely need a right winger. We need some more depth in the pool of players. I know we've got some of the young kids coming in. Alec Lowry's showed some great promise, but he is young. Are you going to get 35 games, 36 games from Alec Lowry? I don't know if you're going to get that, Oxer. I don't think he's going to get that kind of game time. I suspect it might be more in the teens, and that'll be great for his first full season. So, we definitely, it'd be good to see some names getting kicked around. Some Dutch boys would be good. That's what I would like to see.
You mentioned Roof there. Here's a quick trivia question for you. How many games has he been involved with in the 2 seasons he's been with us? Anybody, quickly?
Probably about 40 odds.
72. 42 starts, 30 sub appearances.
30 subs?
Aye.
That's a problem. But Ox, we sit here. We did sit every week. And we pick our team, and we pick Alfie every week. And when you look at Alfie's goal scoring record in the league, it's not as good as it should be for the amount of chances that we create. Roof's never fit, but I think going forward, then maybe, I don't know, something Gio will need to look at. You're saying we need 2 strikers, right? And if you bet a third striker, then you're just going to do what you done to Cedric Eaton. He's never give him a game, and when you do bring him in and either play him out of position or give him a start, he scores some goals and he's popped back out again. I'm only using him as an example. So that third striker is just going to be like him, unless Gio's going to rotate strikers or play with a 2 at some times or whatever. That's the way I see it, because we can't have strikers sitting about the bench and not getting game time.
I get it, mate. I get it. And surely that must be easier now with the 5 subs than it was back in the day when they subs, 1 sub, 2 subs, yeah?
Aye, gives him a chance to freshen it. But I just think going forward, it's something that we might have to look at, possibly if we're only going to play the one striker. And we need others. If we're going to sign players, we need them to come on and be match fit. So going forward, I think he might be thinking of rotating sometimes, or leaving striker out and playing whoever he is. If it's that striker we're going for at £2 million and we get him, then obviously he's going to get game time. We create a lot of chances, so surely he'll probably score more than his record shows 1 and 2. As long as he gets a chance, as long as he gets a bit of game time to go out and prove himself.
Or do we have to change the formation, Bridgeman, and get more strikers on the park? Yeah.
Well, you could look at that. Some folk do like to see 2 strikers, at least 2 dedicated strikers. That'd be interesting to see how we could do that. Obviously, I need to change the team to make it all happen. They need backup and everything, Interesting. That's all I can say about that. Interesting. Because we have played with 2 strikers before and quite successful with them. So.
Aye, okay. New strip come out. Things at the club moving on. Obviously, the catering looks as if it's got a markup. Hopefully, when we see it in reality, it's an improvement for the match day experience. Jaffa, something we've talked about quite a lot. Yeah. Do you like the strip first and foremost? I know it's blue and it's Rangers, but what's your thoughts on the new home kit?
I do, Ox. I do like it, and I always like a Rangers strip to be red, white, and blue. I liked last season's strip, of course, and I bought it. But I do like this year's strip. I like the red piping round the neck and round the sleeves. I think it looks like a Rangers top. I like the long sleeve version of it in particular. I think that's the one I'll probably try and get my hands on. And I do like the orange kit. I think the orange kit's a cracker. I think the second one, or the away top's going to be the red and white sash version, isn't it? For the 80s, 90s rather.
Yeah, I think that's
the diagonal.
Mm-hmm. The sash kit's getting next Tuesday, I think.
Is that when it's coming out next Tuesday?
Do the maths, mate. Do the maths.
Aye, the 12th,
Oh, dear. What's your thoughts on the kit, Billy?
Aye, I like it too, mate. I was actually, just to concur with Jaffa there, I like the long sleeve one myself. I had mine, that one. I think it's about $70 or something like that, mate. But that, when you think about it, for merchandise, for football taps and what they're going about now down in England and whatnot, that's actually quite cheap. So I like the red, white and blue and at 10. I like that. But see that wee shimmery look through it. It's got the 80s look in it when Souness and that was there. I like that bit of tradition about it as well, like, and it's just pumped up. I really like the top, mate. Aye, the new one. The last season one, as I said to you, was a lovely top and all, but I like this one, mate, with the red, white and blue in the collar and that. It's a cracker. It's certainly one I'll buy anyway.
Juicy.
I simply can't be buying myself any more kit. I've literally deprived the funds of just about everything Rangers over the last couple of months. So I might have to wait a bit for the new home kit. But I particularly liked some of the trend tops that came out towards the end of the season. There was a couple of dark blue ones that took ages to come with like sort of blue electricity rippling through them. I got a couple of those, and some of the Seville stuff as well. So yeah, got to be able to sign a couple of players on that amount of money we've been spending, guys. Surely.
Eke store boys, mate, ka-ching, 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 and then they had a major one at the golf Southside, didn't they?
Aye, we Fitzpatrick winning the Open. Aye, they've certainly coined it in. Obviously, some of the products is nice, and it is some of it is quality, But I've been off it lately, But I was down the Rangers shop and I had a wee look round, and I seen the Rangers strips and stuff, and I see for a while they've got club ties back in the shop box. So they never used to do club ties, so I seen a few of them. The wee section of them, which surprised me. So it's always something that people look to collect sometimes, that were never really available for the shop in the past.
Mm-hmm.
When you're down there, sorry, Oxford, sorry. When you were down there, Southside, did you notice any movement on the Edmondson House?
I've been doing a few times, Bridge, so there is progress getting made. You know, it still looks a bit similar to what it was a few weeks back, but there was workmen in there, and they were doing bits and bobs, Bridge, aye, so there is progress on it.
Cool.
Southside, see me, you're in the show. Somebody wants to know, did they have any braces?
No, they didn't, unfortunately. No, they didn't.
I'll never live that down, will I?
Just maybe put that in the wee box for the requests, yeah. Rangers braces.
But they would get down a bomb, that's for sure. They would do in a bomb. Certainly in one house.
Oh dear. You couldn't make it up, Jaffa, could you?
Mental braces. What else in this show?
I don't know. Couldn't make it up. Were you pleased to see that we'd moved away and started to look to improve the catering, mate, for the punters? No, I'm not talking about the hospitality. I'm talking about the punters. I know it might be a slightly dearer, but surely if it is and it's better quality, it's got to be a move in the right direction. You get exactly what it says in the tin.
Absolutely, mate. Yep. And I think for what I saw, I know there was an invitation day down for some of the MyGers members, and I think I saw some of the images. The food looks as though it's going to be a step up, and they can only. I mean, from a revenue point of view, they can only motor that on because that's another in the finances.
And it's going to help to match the experience as well for the people who go to the games every week when it's cold and they want something hot. It's not a lot to ask, Bridge, is it? That the bobble's hot, the pie's quality, is it?
That's it. Plus, if I must say this, I was bitterly disappointed at the tail end of last season. They still haven't done very much with the toilets. Still haven't done very much. No warm water. Shocking situation with it. You can even get any recall the tissue to dry your hands around. Shocking, just shocking. Poor Rangers, poor.
Yeah, you know, you're always going on about that, mate. There is some, they were new at the time. I think the whole concourses need looked at, but that's for another day. Well, gentlemen, first show back. Hope you enjoyed it, Billy Boy.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, mate. I didn't realise that was the time. It just shows you, all good things happening. That just the time flies in, mate. When all the boys start having a wee blather and that, I thoroughly enjoyed it, mate. Thanks for asking us on, Ox.
No, not at all. Juicy, debuting tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me on, guys. It's been a fantastic evening. Discuss all things Rangers. Many more to come. And hopefully we can have a great season.
And if you get a pair of signed braces through the post, you'll know who they've came for, yeah?
I will indeed.
Yes. Jaffa.
Yep, great show, Ox. Thanks for having us on. Nice to talk about the memories of Andy Gorham and obviously Davy Wilson. So thanks for having me on. Love to be back and good to hear all your voices and hopefully to many more throughout the season, Ox.
You're here. Southside.
Aye, mate, thoroughly enjoyed the night. Good to be back on, and obviously it was sad that we had to come on and talk about the loss of Andy Gorham and Davy Wilson, but it's also good to talk about Rangers, other things as well going forward and things that we're looking forward to. So it's good to be back, mate, and looking forward to the season going forward.
The one and only Bridgeman.
Well, I can echo everything the guys have said. It's just great to be back, and it's magic to hear your voices. Started off kind of sombre, simply because of the subjects that we were speaking about. But we're livened up, and the story about the braces is excellent. That got everybody giggling away there. So I'm really happy with that. And can I just say to all the Rangers fans all over the world, and particularly Rangers fans here on Rangers Radio, everybody, you've got to keep it going for the Rangers, because the Rangers really need us. Get selling players, Rangers. Get selling players. Come on.
Thanks to Billy, Kenny and Tommy who joined us. Thanks to Southside, Jaffa, Juicy, and of course the one and only Billy and Bridgeman for joining us. Fox and All School Blue for being the technicals. This has been Rangers Radio. We'll be back next Monday and we start building up to the season. We'll have a friendly that we'll all be able to see on Saturday night, and then we'll have football to talk about, and then we'll be back next Monday with more shows next week as we build up to the season 22-23 when we're league champions once again. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everybody. Take it away, Old School Blue.